Dawson not coming back in?
Said he'd be back.
You're gonna need him.
Yeah.
You do that.
Dawson said he'd be back, we'll wait just another minute, of course, we got 1 minute, but then. Wait another minute or two.
Larry, your microphone's going dead. You see your red light? If you'll hand it to me, I'll change your batteries.
I'm not really a member of the committee,
Well, you might say something when leave to hear you. Who knows? There you go.
you got another agenda, sir?
You don't have an agenda.
I don't have an agenda. I just need agendas.
Bob, you could sing while we're waiting. You could sing while we're waiting.
I've got everybody out.
Yeah, look. We're gonna need you, we ain't got a quorum. Look, man, somebody came and get you. Uh-oh.
What about Jason?
We ain't got a quorum with us. All right, can I? Call me back, man, and believe me, I'm happy with it. All right, so
No, he don't, but it'd just be the same.
said his truck's over on him, brakes locked up, said he can't leave it, said he's got all his tools.
Where's he at?
Sitting on the side of the road somewhere, he gets out.
What do you need to do? Be having another meeting here.
He said, when he left, he said, I'll be back, so.
How about Jason?
I don't know, somebody needs to try to get hold of Jason, see if he can come, I don't know. We'll wait a few more minutes. See if he's
I
coming.
don't know that I have his cell phone number.
Keith's not coming, Keith said he couldn't be here.
Yeah, Keith told me he wouldn't be here, so. I have Jason's telephone number somewhere.
We could hire a substitute.
It looks like that's what we're gonna have to start
Want a
doing.
substitute?
Can you do that? Well, I guess that could be a resolution turned into that, you know.
Rob turned it in today, though, can't
No,
Do you want me to try and call Jason?
I'm shooting a message.
Oh, okay.
That generation don't call.
No, they don't.
Well, you know, he's went back to a flip phone, he may not get a message.
Right. Oh, Jason.
Seriously,
Oh, you're right, he did, didn't he?
yeah, you may have to try and call him.
Fair enough, good point.
Yeah, he's sworn off
I
all
think
this.
so. I think I remember.
Yeah, he went back to a flip phone.
Did he think it was, the smartphone was invading his privacy?
Too burdensome or something.
Right there, one. That's a pretty smart one.
yeah,
He doesn't even have a screen on his.
We'll all
phone.
have one like Rick Brewer got here for long.
Yeah,
They're coming back in style.
I like mine.
I went to to,
I have a smart flip.
look, that, in fact, that folding.
Wow,
Wow.
that's cool.
Eric has
Wow.
one too. Eric has to show me how to use it. Turn this up, turn this down. Turn this off.
So,
That's pretty cool. I got no answer.
It's probably school's letting out right now.
What brand is that?
Yeah.
Samsung.
So,
Yeah,
I saw one of those on display when I took
yeah, I saw,
stuff back to
pretty cool.
Spectrum, whatever they are, maybe selling those things now too.
where Jesse's at?
I'm on to say, well, it was on here, but I guess it doesn't.
Of all the things that I had to cancel for my dad, Spectrum, internet, and television was the hardest.
I
Guarantee
doubt that for 1 second.
Guarantee.
There were two ways, you had to take all the equipment back and swear to God, I didn't want to use anything else. Or you had to send it,
Other than the bylaws.
I canceled his credit cards on the phone, no problem.
I mean, we need to have.
You know, insurance, no problem.
There's a lot of things in them bylaws
Internet,
we're not doing.
no, we
We
can't
change
cancel
them
that,
or
Right.
delete them or.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, we wouldn't have to
better
do it
keep
this
that little
meeting.
printout paper, cause it was months after I canceled mom's. and
I
said,
kept the receipt where that
because
turned
they
in.
were bad.
I'm
It's
telling
like,
Months
it's like
after.
the Gustavo or something.
Sorry, when you're alive.
Hey, it needs to be that way. 20
So
years ago.
Ray and Keith's not gonna be here, Jason's not here, Dawson's not coming back. So that's it. I'm gonna call the meeting to order and ask clerk to call the roll. Sir,
Rick Brewer,
here,
Bob Edens,
Here.
Dawson Fields, Keith Gibson, Ray Jesse, Jason Roach, and Charlie Thacker. Mr. Chairman, we have 3 members present.
that that does not constitute a quorum, so therefore we can't do any business.
Can we still have the general discussion?
We can have discussion, and I'll say this, what we'll need to do, I'm guessing, is have a meeting prior to the commission meeting on next Monday night, meet at 5:30 and have to maybe,
And you will call members of the budget committee.
we can email them, can't we? The office can email them saying that we'll have a meeting at 5:30 prior to the. But we can have discussions, but we just can't do any business.
Just in case, something like this, it's always ready.
We'll,
Good eye.
I guess first thing we'll discuss is there any need to discuss in the resolution since we can't take no action on it?
If anybody had any general questions,
Eric,
I'm
you-
here to answer them. If anybody wants any clarification on anything, I'd be more than happy to go into detail on that.
That's gonna be the problems, and I told everybody they need to start taking notes at these meetings on these resolutions, so that,
Yeah.
if any questions asked at the meeting, we would know what's going on.
Explain that one part-time for us, so take notes, please, Rick.
Everybody take notes.
Mayor's office, county buildings, both?
Yeah, both.
Both? Okay, so starting off with the mayor's office, we're moving money into part-time, $21,235, and we're moving it out of accountants bookkeepers, which is our 119, the same matching amount. So I know last time there was some question and controversy. This is not new money. This is no different than when any other office has an employee staffing issue throughout the year, and they move some of their money from their full-time line to their part-time line. In real time, issues come up that we have to deal with, and we do not always have time to have a meeting, depending on when, deadlines are for getting things to Nancy's office before we resolve those. So management has to make management decisions and solve problems and keep things afloat as you're dealing with things that come up. So that's all this is. We had a problem that came up, we solved it, but now we need a little help, a little housekeeping here, moving our own money from one line to another so that everything comes out all right in the wash. Anybody got any questions on that?
We're not hiring 2 additional people, we're converting a full-time into part-time,
And that's all it is housekeeping.
That's all it is.
with the savings to the county, you'll have a.
And when you do things like this and you're not having a full-time position filled, then you're not vulnerable to insurance for that person. Not gonna be paying retirement on it, so I mean, there's cost savings as well. So not only are we not asking for new money, and we're just moving our own money, it's already been appropriated into the proper line that we need it, we're also being less vulnerable for other expenses, so.
You have those positions filled.
Can't go until we get it approved.
It's in the process.
You
but
have
we're-
people that want them, you're just waiting on this, or, okay.
Why are we going from full-time position to a part-time? Less work or what? I mean,
It just works out better when things pop up different times of the year,
just seasonal, I mean,
not seasonal, but just different projects. We got all these grants coming in too. We need to get somebody in here, but it's hard to find a full-time person now. It's difficult.
okay, I'm just,
What we pay, it's almost undoable.
I understand that.
Matter of fact, we had one that we were very fond of and got turned down.
Right.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I see that.
No, that's fine, it's informal, we're just
Okay, thank you.
Ask them questions.
asking questions. Please ask, cause that way you might be able to answer if, you know.
If you know anybody needs a job, call me.
That has some office and accounting background.
You need a part-time job, Bob?
So, and then basically, going down to county buildings, you got roughly the same situation. Now, we're not asking for new money, again, we're moving money from custodial personnel into part-time. So, saw an ability there, Sarah and Jim did to restructure the way that was done a little bit, and you're gonna look at the same thing, a savings in insurance, a savings in retirement, and you're gonna have buildings clean to the same standard we've always had them clean to, so. Just moving our own money around, if you'll allow
No different than what we've done 100 times in the past.
it. We've had other offices that have had, staffing issues come up throughout the year, as they tend to do, and, they move their money from full-time to part-time to accommodate. We're trying to do the same.
Do, we need to discuss any other resolutions?
If you wanna discuss airport or radios, I'd be happy to do so as well. That first airport one, what that is a timing issue. We passed the budget a little earlier this year, which was great. But when we're passing that budget, the picture's not clear, and we don't actually close the books on June until August 31st. So one of the things that we didn't think was gonna get spent did, so it got spent, or encumbered at least, in the prior year, but we also had it in the budget in the future year. So we don't need it in there twice, pulling it back out, which actually puts money back into fund balance. So it's just a housekeeping issue, getting our books right. The other airport is just 2 grants that you guys had already approved back in August, and we're just putting the money in the budget so that it matches up with what you tried to do earlier. So it's just put them in the proper line. So those are both pretty simple, straightforward. And then other emergency management was the communication equipment for the radios. I know there was a little confusion there. It's not to do with the 3 tower sites. This is to do with I guess there is some
Mobile and portable radio.
mobile and portal and some other things that help with the DMR conversion. But this is that state direct appropriation grant from the governor. And I know there's a question too about fire departments. There's just not enough funding to include them on this first phase. But this is phase 1, which includes EMA, police, rescue, EMS.
Everybody but the fire.
Everybody but the fire department.
And then they're gonna get it later on.
And they're gonna get later on, as long as funding becomes available, and we've got a few avenues for that to look into, so.
Now, that first thing with the airport, that's not gonna show it. I'm not an auditor, but is the audit committee gonna see that when they audit? Is that gonna-
No, that's a typical thing, it happens.
Okay.
And when you have counties that pass it in July and some that pass it in June, I mean, it's a fairly common thing. It just needs to be cleaned up during the year. But no, you're gonna run into timing things like that, and I understand that. They would have a bigger problem if we didn't do this.
All right, that's fine.
Any other questions about the resolution?
Was there any other resolutions besides budget amendments? I don't think there was many this month.
The only other, there's not a whole lot of resolution. Resolution about the star.
All right.
Yeah, my opinion on that hasn't changed any.
wait on the money.
Well, we got the money, but I think we need to wait on the final rule and the approval, but, Mark has written it in a manner that, I believe that the last paragraph in there kind of speaks to that anyway, so.
We attempted to write it like that last time, but I tried to clarify it a little bit more this time, and there's additional information now. Chairman Brewer asked representatives of fire departments to be at our last
Utility.
ad hoc meeting, utilities to be there, to see if they also had fire hydrants on their priority list, of things that they might need. And in reality, they didn't. And a couple of them had maybe down on their priority list, but most of them don't have the size of water lines and the water pressure that they could support extra fire hydrants. So fire hydrants weren't on their list, and that was kind of why Chairman Brewer asked them to be there, to see if they also needed fire hydrants. So that process was gone through. We asked them to come up with what their priority list would be and what they figured the associated cost might be. And we've all talked about, all the different avenues of money that's coming in and what might fit where, and we just want to be prepared, get a jump on what they might be asking for. But fire hydrants wasn't one of them. So with all that said, the committee said, all right, Stanley Valley wants these fire hydrants still. And we don't know if it's gonna fit the rules and regulations or not when the final rule comes out. But the committee voted to go ahead and put the resolution back in that says if it meets the requirements, we would like to spend up to $60,000 to put fire hydrants in Stanley Valley. It was part of what should have been done when the grant was fulfilled and the line was put in. It simply wasn't done. And they're not protected. There's one fire hydrant on that whole 14-mile line, and they have to go get water, and bring it back and forth. So we decided that $60,000 was an appropriate figure. And then at the last commission meeting, if you remember right, Commissioner Harrell asked me to put some sort of estimate with it as to how many hydrants that would cover. Well, that's like, trying to shoot a jetliner down with a 22. I mean, it's a moving target. That price changes every day. And I talked to Kelsey over at the Rogersville Water Department, and he gave me a figure as of what a fire hydrant would cost today to put in. We don't know. I mean, when this money is available and we can get it, we don't know exactly what it's going to cost, but we figured right now there's an estimate that I put with that resolution that, we probably could put 5 fire hydrants in, 6 fire hydrants, whatever. But there's a figure as of today what one would cost. So that should hopefully satisfy Commissioner Harrell's desire to have that. And as Eric said, I wrote it such that we're not spending the money right now. We're just kind of saying when it becomes available, that's a priority that the ad hoc committee would like to fill. So that's where we are. Yes, sir.
I talked to our police chief, our fire chief in Bulls Gap.
Yeah.
And he was wanting 10 fire hydrants.
Okay.
But do I need to go talk to utility districts to see why they didn't?
Yeah, ask them why they didn't. And my guess would be, and I don't remember whether they were there or not, where they both got.
Yeah, he was there, Tyler, from
Okay.
actually the Whitesburg,
Yeah.
Russell Utility
Whitesburg,
District
okay.
Services.
And I think fire chiefs would like it, but fire chiefs may not know that a line may not be able to support it.
6 inches.
You need a 6-inch line with a certain PSI on it that was going to support a fire hydrant.
But then again, you can use a 4-inch hydrant on a 4-inch line to fill the truck back up.
Right.
Instead of having to drive to Lower Mongolia to come back.
Okay.
There's pros and cons.
Yeah, well, we all agree that there is infrastructure money coming for water from several different directions, and we don't want to leave anybody out. But we know that line right now would support fire hydrants, and they were promised fire hydrants when that line was put in, and we feel like it's a priority. And we just wanted to put it out there that that's something we want to, if it's acceptable and when the money's available, that's what we want to do.
Mark, if that money was available to do those fire hydrants, Stanley Valley's in my district,
Yes, sir.
and I believe all the crossroads or intersections are in my district except one.
Okay,
That would be Blevins Road.
okay,
Everything else east of that would be in my district.
okay,
And I believe counting Blevins Road, and I understand, well, I worked on it with Rogersville, utility when, now, I actually went up through there with Jimmy Bible at the time, and we counted houses.
yeah,
To determine whether or not it's feasible to put the line in, which they did, but, like you said, I think fire hydrants supposed to have been put in, but they didn't.
supposed to have been, yes.
Yeah, but there is, 10 intersections up
Okay.
there. If you took, and I don't know if 60,000 will cover 10 or not, I don't know.
Likely not the way the prices are moving, Charlie, but you know, it could, they could come down, I doubt it.
Well, it would have last year, but now
Yeah.
it won't.
But see, we've got some intersections that may not be a mile and a half
Right,
apart, so
right.
you could skip one here
Right.
and there.
Well, and there's still, like we said, there's still money coming. I mean, it doesn't mean that $60,000 is gonna be all the fire hydrants we put in Stanley Valley, and that's it, that's all you're gonna get. You know, we could use some of the money to put in another one or two, you know.
My
but-
problem was with this is, even though it's in my district and, you know, I mean, I support it, but there's other utilities that may want the same thing throughout the county, and like you said, some of them didn't show up.
Well, we asked them to show up, and fire hydrants was not something that was on their priority list. That's kind of all we can do at this point. And we made clear to them that, you know, that we want to help them too, but they're gonna have to tell us what they want and give us some sort of figure just to kind of be prepared for when we have money available for them.
Stanley Valley is from 11W to the Virginia line is 15 miles,
Yeah,
and
it's a long haul to have one fire hydrant on.
yeah, there's one fire hydrant at the fire department.
Yeah, at the fire department.
And I didn't count it, but, you know, that's a long distance
Yeah.
when you've got two more valleys over that don't have city water.
Right.
They also serve too,
Right.
you know, and,
Well, anytime you can get a fire hydrant closer to a home, it's gonna help on their insurance too.
yeah.
They'll get a better rating, you know, that kind of thing. So it sounds like we're trying to just help Stanley Valley, but you know, it's gonna help a lot of houses out through there.
The only other area that I know might be desolate would be possibly Beach Creek.
Yeah.
Area that's a long distance.
Yeah.
Maybe without fire hydrants, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when you get closer to town, you get closer to fire hydrants and so forth. It's not as hard to get water, but when you get an area like Stanley Valley, you can go back to Carter's Valley and they've got more fire hydrants, but when you go north, there's two more valleys in our county beyond that. Have no fire
I
hydrants.
got lost out there Sunday, Charlie. I was out there picking up a Chancery Court sign and made a wrong turn, and there's a lot of roads out through there, and I
And
was
there's
looking.
no fire hydrants there to protect those
Right.
people if they need it.
Right.
I do.
Right, and you know, there's a lot of need for, bigger lines, you know, higher pressure, and a lot of needs out through there. And, you know, we asked them to put their list together, and, we just kinda wanted to see if anybody had an immediate need. There are immediate needs for fire hydrants, they just don't have the lines to support right now.
Well, it's not just that, we also needed a cell tower
Yeah,
in that area because there's not much cell
yeah,
system up there.
yeah,
Since this is an informal meeting, I think I can speak on this without it being a conflict of interest. You know, I serve on the Mooresburg Utility Board.
right,
Of course, our representative was there, and I don't think he quite understood exactly what, after he was told that he had to have a plan or a form turned in for what they were requesting. He didn't understand about the fire hydrants. They was a paper turned in last year that they was requesting $30,000 from that government money last year, and it never did get brought before the commission.
Right,
Of course,
see
it was a direct conflict of interest for me, and I couldn't do it.
Hmm.
But, you know, we were wanting to extend a 6-inch line into the Big Hill area and put a fire hydrant for the Big Hill area, a fire hydrant for the Spruce Pine area, and a fire hydrant at Morrisburg School. And that was what we was requesting the $30,000 for. Well, we bit the bullet, we're doing that on our own.
Hmm.
You know, at least a 6-inch line and fire hydrant at Big Hill.
Well, I apologize if he didn't understand. I think we tried to make it pretty clear that, to everybody that was there, that if they went online and Woody had put that form online, to, you know, just put in what you need.
Well, he's come
'Cause
back.
We don't know unless you ask.
He's okay with it. I mean,
Okay.
we've already done it, and he's gonna submit, you
Good.
know,
Good.
a request, so I don't know, you know, we've not decided, but he's got, we got 10 different projects, I guess, with people that don't have good water.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're running that line we're running right now, it's gonna serve 10 households.
Well, water is a priority on all these things that are coming in, so. And I think everybody that has needs, you know, needs to present them, because we'll have some funding.
Well, the areas that we're looking at, there's no way you're gonna get a CDBG grant for it, because there's not enough population. It's not, you know, helping enough people, but they're needing water just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
like,
I just got aggravated to the point where I put 4,000 feet in for myself.
Well, we'll just put you on some of these other areas, Charlie, once you start digging.
I said, no, not everybody can do that. But anyway,
Well, I spoke with first, Mid-Hawkins County, Rogersville, and First Utility District. They kept giving me the runaround. So I got fed up with it, and I just put 4,000 feet in for myself.
I guess my concern still with this resolution, Mark, is, and I'm for it, you know, I think they need what, but if we pass this resolution and not knowing whether or not that it's gonna qualify
Yeah.
for the money, and it sets here till time runs out, what's these people, Stanley Valley gonna do if it comes in just right at the last minute and say, that don't qualify, and we've already done all these other projects and the money's gone. That's, you know, cause once we pass this resolution, we're going to look at all these other utility districts, what they're requesting.
I'm not sure what you mean by when time runs out. I mean, we've got till 2024 to fund everything.
Right, but now there's gonna be money spent in that time frame, and when you've got all these other, you understand what I'm talking about, Eric?
I think what you're saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is if you start obligating funds for a certain project and you're pulling from the total, and then it ends up not being eligible, how many other projects did you kick because you had money reserved for something that didn't end up coming true?
Yeah, but you know, if it was 6 million, then I'd be concerned.
True.
60,000, I'm not, you know, we've got a lot of people asking for money that still doesn't total the 11 million minus the 3.4 that's being moved over. And when you start looking at the qualifications that these nonprofits are gonna have to get this money and track this money and assure us that they're gonna be able to handle this money, we're gonna have a real task trying to make sure to actually give away this money.
Legally spend that much money.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Which is a great segue into another conversation I'd like to touch on before we all leave today.
Okay.
The grant management. It is an eligible expenditure to use some of this grant money on hiring help to administer the grant. No different than what we're doing right now with the radio project. And that is something that I would like to highly recommend to all parties who are involved. Tracking this is going to be an absolute bear.
Yeah.
And this office is not adequately staffed to handle this.
Any committee won't be able to do it, any person that's already got responsibilities won't be able to do it. Somebody with knowledge is gonna have to get involved in this, cause it's a lot of money and it's a lot of red tape. I mean, it's government, let's face it. Somebody's gonna have to know what they're doing.
It's a lot of work. It's gonna be a lot of work. Maybe more work than any grant we've had before.
All that
It
stuff
is.
is, well, I'm reluctant to even tell anybody
Yeah.
that we're gonna get fire hydrants
Yeah,
until I know for
Right,
sure the
right.
money is there and we were gonna get it.
well, I'd be reluctant to tell them for sure that they're gonna get it, but I wouldn't be reluctant to tell them, hey, let's
We're
apply for
working
it.
on it. Most everything
Let's
will
get it
work
on the
out.
list, because, you know, that list, let's face it, there are organizations asking for the moon that they're not gonna get the moon, because they're not gonna qualify. Their project is not gonna qualify. Their organization may not qualify because they don't have the means to keep track of. They don't have the bookkeeping in place. They don't have their records in place. This is if you read through all of the requirements for this grant, there's not even a handful of people who have asked for this money that are going to be able to meet all of these requirements. It boggles my mind to start even trying to explain to somebody what they're gonna have to go through to get any part of this money.
A lot of them don't even have interest when they find out how much red tape actually is involved with the process.
Yeah.
What, you're talking about hiring somebody, just to manage these grants, we're talking about 1 people, 2 people, 3, 4, 5.
A firm, for instance, the same one that we're using now, Community Development Partners, you know, they are an option for us to go that route. There's others who do the same type of thing, but hiring a consulting group who is familiar with managing this. They're used to dealing with federal dollars, the type of red tape that goes along with that, proper documentation. Also, for instance, they have mentioned that in this particular grant, they will help with reporting. And that is a huge value to the county just in itself.
There's not a volunteer committee that's gonna be able to handle it. There is not a staff person, one person that's qualified, that's doing something else that's gonna be able to handle it. It's just, if you read through it and, you know, if I get a minute at work, I start looking at it and I think, I can't go there right now because I've got something else to do. Cause it's mind blowing, it really is.
Well, if all this did go through, I'm talking about with these fire hydrants
Yeah.
and that, has Rogersville Utility agreed to put those in?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if anybody talked to them.
Yeah, I've talked with Kelsey several times, and, you know, if you look at that estimate I put on the back of that resolution, there's labor included in that, and that's Rogersville Water Department labor.
Yeah.
They put that line in, that he's broken it down by taps and saddles and pipe and hydrants and all of that stuff. Today's price, well, last week's price, it may be completely different today.
Money are you talking about, and would that money come from the grant money, not cost the county?
No, it wouldn't cost the county any money.
No, I'm talking about his book.
It comes from the grant money.
The grant itself will pay for it.
Okay.
I don't have a set fee on it, don't know a set fee on it yet, and I don't know that we will until they have the final rule. And
Okay.
again, too, their
It's
take
gonna
on
depend
different
on
projects
what we
will be differently. You know, if we do a lot of things at a loss of revenue, their role may be smaller. If we go with a construction project, their role might be a little greater. So I think it's gonna have a lot of variables in it. I think what we will do in this office is we will send out an RFQ to, you know, 3 qualified parties and just see what they come back at, rank them. And then once we like one, we present that for y'all for approval.
Would that be easier to get in touch with and ask questions than to try to go through the government setup?
Well,
Probably because
they'll
we're
have to go
handling
through the
directly.
government
I
setup.
mean, but what I'm saying is, if we have a question, we can call them and say, we need to know the answer to this.
Absolutely.
And tell us yes or no, instead of having to call the government and make our own decisions on whether it's right.
It's another resource. They will not transfer liability. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the liability is still
Right.
on us to, make sure we're spending this money properly, but it's another resource that we can exhaust, and it's another resource that is used to looking at federal documents and determining eligibility, so.
That's probably something the ad hoc committee needs to
So it's stated well.
recommend to the full commission.
Yeah, it is. And we're gonna have an admin fee for every single project we fund.
It's crazy.
They're all separate reporting.
Honestly, I think we need to get the ball rolling on that faster than what
Yeah.
you can do, because your next meeting
Yeah,
is a
we
little
don't
bit
have a
away, so-
January meeting because we felt like they're dragging their feet so much on the portal kind of thing that,
and the final rule.
and the final ruling, and, you know, it just, we set a meeting for February and we'll discuss it then and get the ball rolling on that. That has to be done because I think everybody on the committee's lost sleep over this whole thing. It's just crazy.
Don't doubt that.
Is there not, I mean, it's not gonna cost us anything to go ahead and put some feet, or is that?
No.
No, it will not.
Well, I believe that, but
So we'll probably see that on the February, commission resolution.
Had some options for us in February.
I'm gonna recommend Evan Sanders. He
Well,
worked
we'll-
closely with us, but he's done a great.
We'll do a recommendation of, you know, putting out the request for quote type things, and that could be one of the firms that, you know, look at.
We'll sit into it. I'm not sure we're gonna have to go that route, but we'll find out. You wanna talk about Evans Group?
I'm sorry.
You wanna talk about Evans Group?
Well, I know Evan personally, and I think he's done work for the city of Rogersville, maybe. I know he's done work for the city of Churchill.
Who we talking about?
When I was the mayor at Bean Station, Evan Sanders.
Okay.
When I was the mayor at Bean Station, he wrote all of our grants, and every grant that he applied for, we got. Because, I mean, he didn't get paid if he didn't get the grant.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
he
he
was,
got us a grant that First Tennessee Development District said they couldn't get.
but, you know, I'd highly recommend him, of course, you know, that's all I can tell you about him, he worked for the city of Bean Station, and when, everything that he done for the city. You know, we was with, the district, it's a lot like the one that we're with now, but
It's not First Tennessee, I forget what they call that.
we was with, but anyway, that community, we had problems with them every time we applied for a grant through them. So we finally just went with Evan, and, you know, we didn't have no more problems afterwards.
He don't come through, he don't get paid.
Yeah.
No.
That's always
And that's
good
one
to
thing,
see.
I can tell you right now, you can call him right now, he'll tell you every pot of money that's going to be available. Whether
They or not.
he done already knows ahead of time what's coming down the pipes. And I guess that's why he's so good, because he gets his name in the pot early. So,
Where's he live?
he's out in Nashville. I don't know where he lives.
Churchill's been using it since I moved over to
Yeah,
First
I
County.
mean, also, no.
So, but anyway. Anything else that we want to discuss? We're just here informally, ain't gonna be no adjournment, we're just, anything else needs to be discussed, Eric, you know of?
That's all I had for you today, unless you got any additional questions for me.
Mayor, you got anything?
No, just, remember, we're not asking for new money, we're actually saving the county money, so don't be derailed by Commissioner Harrell again.
I'm done.
You done, George?
Motion to go to the house. Since I'm not, it's not an official committee meeting, I can make the motion.
Thank you all.
You finally got a